Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today we are going to analyze The Hindu dated 25th of September 2019. Article that we are going to discuss today is displayed on the screen. Timestamping for the same has been provided in the description of the video. Let's begin. Now we have taken this article from page 10 of today's newspaper, and it basically talks about Donald Trump's calling of Taliban peace talks is to India's advantage, and outreach to the outfit could secure it. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, this will come under General Studies paper 2 and it will be part of international relations. As a subtopic, it will relate to India and its neighborhood relations. Let's begin. Now, the first and the foremost is to understand the context. US has recently cancelled the talks with the Taliban, and the reason cited by the Trump administration is that Taliban has not given up on its terrorist mode of operations. In this scheme of things, US cannot negotiate with the Taliban when its soldiers are being targeted and are killed. It is important for us to understand the issue from the standpoint of various stakeholders in the Afghanistan problem. The first and the most important stakeholder is the Afghanistan government itself. Afghan government under the leadership of President Ashraf Ghani has tried to engage with Taliban and asked them to participate in the democratic process of nation building by participating in the coming elections. For this end, Afghanistan has also accepted Taliban as a political organization. At the same time, Afghan government was skeptical about the closed door negotiations between the US and the Taliban. Afghan government was fearful that US in its hurry to move out of Afghanistan may offer unreasonable concessions to the Taliban, and this might give free rein to Taliban to impose extreme Islamic rule in Afghanistan, thereby sacrificing gains in rights and freedom under the democratic rule. So, in a nutshell, Afghanistan government is happy by the cancellation of talks between the US and the Taliban. Moreover, President Ashraf Ghani has a strong chance to continue in power without sharing it with Taliban. Second important stakeholder is the Taliban. The Taliban was ousted from power by the US-led forces and has since been trying to regain its lost ground in Afghanistan. Fueled from the support from Pakistan and narco money, they have made huge inroads in recapturing Afghanistan. Almost 50% of the Afghanistan is under their control and their power has been increasing consistently. At the same time, Taliban was also looking for the negotiation because it would have given them an acceptance, or in other words, legitimacy as an important actor in Afghanistan politics and one of the stakeholders in the government. Second would be negotiate for the exit of US forces, and this would have been the greatest victory of Taliban. And third, but not the least, participate in the political process and gain power, which will also lead to globally accepted political force. At the same time, the Taliban couldn't give up on targeting the Afghan government and derail the democratic process that is going to take place on 28th of September. They have continued attacks on the government establishment, and in the process, they have lost the most by the cancellation of these talks with the US. Next important stakeholder is India. The talks between Taliban and the US was never a good sign for India, as this would have given political legitimacy to Taliban, and India has always opposed that, as she always considered Taliban as a non-state actor. Moreover, India was almost out of negotiations between the US and the Taliban, and this was a serious blow to India's strategic interests. India is heavily invested in the democratic government in Afghanistan, and they would have never accepted this kind of arrangement between the US and the Taliban. Now, when there is no talks between the Taliban and the US, there might be some level of violence in Afghanistan, but it won't have external implications for India. Next important stakeholder is Pakistan. Because of the closeness between Afghan Taliban and Pakistan, the USA needs the support of Pakistan to bring Taliban to the negotiation table. Hence, USA is dependent on Pakistan for reducing tension between Afghanistan and to negotiate peace deal with the Afghan Taliban. On its part, Pakistan is trying to strengthen its role on the peace negotiations in order to gain strategic depth in Afghanistan. The enhanced role played by Pakistan in the peace process does not bode well for India. If Pakistan gains higher leverage in Afghan politics, it may pose security challenge to India. Now, the author relates the current scheme of things with the Kashmir issue. The author has tried to highlight the cancellation of US Taliban talks and its relation to Kashmir. First and foremost, emerging geopolitical situation in Afghanistan will have its impact on Kashmir. If Taliban comes to power, then it is expected that Islamic jihadis would focus their attention into Kashmir. Negotiated or non-negotiated, withdrawal of the US from Afghanistan would give a free hand to Taliban, and this would cause deepening unrest in the Kashmir. Author has even quoted, if a superpower like the US can be pushed out of Afghanistan by the Taliban with the help of Pakistan, then would it be difficult to beat India on Kashmir? To that extent, the breakdown of the Trump-Taliban talks is advantage India. The author also goes on to suggest the way forward. India, on its part, needs to reach out to Taliban not to recognize it, but to engage with it in its own national interest. However, the author cautions that any outreach from Indian side would make government in Kabul led by Mr. Ashraf Ghani unhappy. This leaves India in a difficult situation, hence such an outreach will also need to be carefully calibrated and discreetly executed. We hope that this topic is now clear to you. Let's take up a question for the mains. You are expected to answer, in light of disruption of talks between the US and the Taliban, analyze the standpoint of major stakeholders in the case and how it would impact India's interest. You have to answer this in 250 words, and this question is of 15 marks. Let's move to the next news. This data point is taken from page number 11, and it talks about a very important issue of manual scavenging. As a topic, it will come under General Studies paper 2 under social justice. It will be covered under the subtopic of welfare schemes for vulnerable section of the population by the center and state and the performance of these schemes, mechanisms, laws, institutions and bodies constituted for the protection and betterment of these vulnerable sections. Now we have also seen that in 2013 there was a question: the central government frequently complains on the poor performance of the state government in eradicating suffering of vulnerable sections of the society. Restructuring of centrally sponsored schemes across the sectors for ameliorating the cause of vulnerable sections of the population aims at providing flexibility to the states in better implementation, critically evaluate. So this question was asked in 2013 and this was of 10 marks. Hence, this topic is very important, and in the recent past we have seen that the deaths reported due to manual scavenging has brought this topic into government's attention. Let's begin. Manual scavenging as a practice still exists in India, and it is considered as a blot on India's social justice. This practice at times also leads to practice of untouchability, which is prohibited under Article 17 of Indian Constitution. Although a law was passed in 2013 which prohibited the employment of manual scavengers, a recent survey conducted identifies 54,130 people are engaged in this employment as of July 2019. Now, this figure is actually understated because this survey was conducted in only 18 states and covered 170 districts only. It means the proportion of this problem is huge and we need to take some measures immediately. Now let us understand what is manual scavenging. Manual scavenging is related to the practice of service latrines and cleaning of sewers. Now, service latrine is a type of waterless toilet from which human excreta is collected from buckets and cesspools and previous manually. Similar is the issue with cleaning of sewers, where manual scavengers clean without proper gear or machines. This has led to many accidents in recent past and has caused a lot of deaths. Tamil Nadu had registered
206 deaths caused due to manual scavenging, where people were either cleaning sewers or septic tanks between 1993 to 2019. This was the highest among all states, and Gujarat was next with 156 deaths. Again, this figure is much skewed as 15 states have not reported any data on deaths. The problem of manual scavenging is huge, especially in states like UP, where the number of service latrines is as high as 3.26 lakh. Another problem with manual scavenging is that all those people who have lost their lives while cleaning sewers or latrines, not all of them have received adequate compensation. This is the reason why the problem is huge and we need to take immediate curative action. Now let us define the extent of the problem. According to 2011 census, 7.9 lakh cases of manual scavenging were reported. Even the socio-economic caste census 2011 revealed that 1.8 lakh households are engaged in it for livelihood. India is the only country in the world where a particular section of the society is traditionally responsible for keeping the habitation clean by removing waste products of the society, including human excreta. Manual scavenging still survives in parts of India without proper sewage system. It is thought to be most prevalent in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Rajasthan. Some municipalities in India still run dry public toilets. The biggest violator of this law in India is the Indian Railways, which has toilets dropping all the excreta from a train on the tracks, and they employ scavengers to clean it manually. According to Socioeconomic Caste Census report of 2011, Maharashtra has 63,713, Madhya Pradesh has 23,093, Uttar Pradesh has 17,619, and Tripura has 17,332, and Karnataka has 15,375 manual scavengers. However, the exact number of manual scavengers living in India is still an open-ended question. Now let us focus on the initiatives taken by the government. Now, before 1980, the main effort of the government was concentrated on improving the working and living conditions of scavengers and not the core problem of converting dry latrines to pour flush latrines in a systematic manner. In 1980-81, the Ministry of Home Affairs took up centrally sponsored scheme for liberation of scavengers by way of conversion of existing dry latrines into low-cost pour flush latrines and providing alternative employment to the unemployed scavengers as one of the measures for removal of untouchability and providing financial assistance in selected towns. In 1989, a task force constituted by Planning Commission on the subject suggested for a separate scheme for liberation and rehabilitation. It also explored the basis for enactment of certain legislation to ban construction and continuation of dry latrines and prohibit practice of manual scavenging. In 1992, the scheme of liberation of scavengers was bifurcated for conversion of dry latrines into waterborne flush latrines. An integrated low-cost sanitation scheme was started. The National Scheme for Liberation and Rehabilitation of Scavengers and their dependents was started for providing alternative employment to the liberated scavengers and their dependents. Parliament has passed the Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and Rehabilitation Act of 2013. According to this act, no person, local authority, or agency should engage or employ people for hazardous cleaning of sewers and septic tanks. Mechanized cleaning of septic tanks is a prescribed norm. Safety gears for rare instances where human intervention is unavoidable is prescribed. The violation can be punished with 2 years of imprisonment or fine for both. It also prohibits construction of insanitary latrines. Each occupier of insanitary latrines shall be responsible for converting or demolishing the latrines at his or her own cost. The district magistrate and the local authorities shall be the implementing authorities. However, the problem of manual scavenging is still practiced, and this has been highlighted in the current article as well. This news has been taken from page number 16 of today's newspaper. It talks about India accepts RCEP tips on investment. However, I must inform you that this news is in transition and we are looking for more clarity on this news. It talks about that India has agreed to remove technology transfer requirements and caps on royalty payment, and this will actually enable signing of RCEP agreement with India. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, this topic will come under GS Studies Paper 2, and it will be part of bilateral, regional, global groupings and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interest. In the current scheme of things, this topic relates more to the prelims examination, and in prelims examination, it would come under current events of national and international importance. Now, similar type of topics have already been asked by UPSC. We have presented a question which was asked in 2017, and it talks about broad-based trade and investment agreements. BTIA is sometimes seen in the news in the context of negotiations held between India and, so the correct answer in this case is option A, that is European Union. So we have seen that UPSC has asked similar questions, and that is why this topic is also important. Let's begin. Now let us explain the context of the news. India and other RCEP countries are currently in the final phase of negotiation in Vietnam. This article highlights that the investment chapter of the RCEP deal has been agreed upon, and India has decided to accept some of the key provisions related to transfer of technology and royalty issues. Once this deal is signed, it will actually boost foreign investment in India. So let's understand what is RCEP. Now, as far as RCEP is concerned, RCEP means Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is actually a proposed free trade agreement between 10 member states of ASEAN, which would include Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, and the six Asia Pacific countries, which would include Australia, China, India, Japan, South Korea, and New Zealand. RCEP will cover trade in goods, trade in services, investment, economic and technical cooperations, intellectual property, competition, dispute settlement, and other issues. The objective is to achieve mutually beneficial economic partnership agreement among the ASEAN and its free trade agreement partners. The RCEP would become the largest trade bloc in terms of population. It will cater to around 3.5 billion people and would also account for 40% of world's GDP and 30% of global trade. So what has been decided now? We have focused on the investment related aspects through this agreement, and which is in the final phase of negotiation. The Indian government emphasized that foreign companies investing in India should transfer technology or know-how to their domestic counterparts. Further, the government and Reserve Bank of India also currently impose cap on the royalties that a domestic company pay to its foreign partner or parent company. These restrictions have been seen as major hindrances to investing in India, and other RCEP countries have argued strongly for their removal. The article highlights that India has agreed to remove these two restrictions on foreign investment into India, while there is apprehension that removing cap on royalty payment would lead to increased outflow in foreign exchange and deplete the ability of domestic firms to pay dividends to shareholders. There is also the view that removal of these restrictions will result in increased investment in India. With this, we have come to the end of this news item. Let me explain again that this news is in transition, and in the days to come, we will cover this news in detail. This news is taken from page number 1, and it talks about India US trade deal falls through. Now, this news is in transition. However, this news will come under General Studies Paper 2, and the subtopic would be bilateral, regional, and global groupings and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interests. Let's begin. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a visit to USA to strengthen multifaceted relationship between the two countries. One of the major agenda of this visit was to sign interim trade agreement between the two countries. However, this deal could not be finalized due to lack of consensus. on certain key aspects of trade agreement. Now we need to understand what are the concerns of USA and what are the concerns of India. USA wanted India to eliminate import duties on ICT, that is information and communication technology products. This would include mobile phones, set-top box, semiconductors, telecommunication equipments, etc. However, India was against the reduction of import duties as it would adversely impact the domestic manufacturing industry. Further, USA also wanted India to do away price caps on medical devices such as knee implants and cardiac stents, which was not agreed to by India. India was also against US's demand for greater access for dairy products and other categories of agriculture products. Now let us understand India's concern. Recently, USA has decided to withdraw GSP benefits given to India. GSP implies Generalized System of Preferences. Under the GSP, USA imports certain category of goods from other countries at zero import duties. The US decision to end GSP benefits to Indian goods had become a sore point in their trade relationships, and accordingly, India was demanding for the extension of the said benefit. India also wanted greater market access in agriculture goods such as grapes, pomegranates, etc. However, these demands of India were not taken into account by the USA. Now let's move to the way forward. Both US and India had decided to adopt full-fledged trade agreement once the interim trade agreement is put in place. Hence, the recent deadlock in the finalization of interim trade deal has to be resolved at the earliest so as to strengthen the bilateral relationships between the two countries. Last news of the day is taken from page number 8 and it talks about the great mathematician Ramanujan Prize. Now, as far as this topic is concerned, this will be important from the preliminary examination perspective and it will come under current events of national and international importance. Ramanujan as a person and award has been important for the examination as it has been seen in the 2016 question where a question was asked on the recent movie titled The Man Who Knew Infinity is based on the biography of whom? The correct answer is S. Ramanujan. So this topic is important. Let's begin. The Shastra Ramanujan Prize for 2019 will be awarded to mathematician Adam Harper. Now, as far as this prize is concerned, this prize carries a citation and an award of $10,000 and is conferred annually on the mathematicians from across the world who are less than 32 years of age, working in an area influenced by the genius of Srinivas Ramanujan. The age limit is 32 years to commemorate the fact that Srinivas Ramanujan accomplished a phenomenal body of work in this short span of time. Every year, this prize is awarded by Shastra University on its campus near Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu on Ramanujan's birth anniversary of December 22nd. Srinivas Ramanujan was born on 22nd of December 1887. He was an Indian mathematician who lived during the British rule in India. Though he had almost no formal training in pure mathematics, he made substantial contributions to mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite series, and continued fractions, including solutions to mathematical problems then considered unsolvable. Now, the Shastra Prize is also related to Fields Medal in some sense. Four mathematicians who were awarded S. Ramanujan Prize have gone on to win Fields Medal later. The Field Medal is a prize awarded to 2, 3, or 4 mathematicians under 40 years of age at the International Congress of the International Mathematical Union, a meeting that takes place every 4 years. The Fields Medal is regarded as one of the highest honors a mathematician can receive and has been described as mathematician's Nobel Prize. Now this editorial on page number 10, which talks about climate for action, this topic will come under General Studies paper 3, especially in the field of environment, security and disaster management. Now this topic has been exhaustively covered on 24th of September 2019 and 23rd of September 2019. This was covered by Mehak ma'am and on 23rd it was covered by Mr. Baswa. Kindly go through those articles to develop a complete grasp on the topic. With this, let's move to the practice questions of the day. The first question talks about consider the following statements about generalized system of preference adopted by the US. We have just gone through this topic. It allows duty-free imports on certain goods into US economy in order to promote economic growth in poor and developing economies. This is correct. The GSP is considered to be an exception to most favored nation principle. This is also correct. By this logic, both the statements are correct, and the correct answer is option C. This question we have taken from the prelims examination of 2018, and it talks about consider the following countries: Australia, Canada, China, India, Japan, and USA. Which of the above are among the free trade partners of ASEAN? Now we have discussed a similar topic through RCEP, and the correct answer for this is option C: 1, 3, 4, and 5. By this logic, Australia is there, China is there, India is there, and Japan is there. USA and Canada are not part of this. Hence, the correct answer is option C.
With this, we have come to the end of today's session. Let's move to the question of the day.